right, welcome to mini lesson number 5. We are flying through this. All right, we're going really quickly. Um, but today we are still covering economics, and we're going to be looking at trade. All right, and I'm a huge sports fan. So when I think of trade, I think of trades amongst teams. So last summer, right, one of the biggest trades for those of you who are sports fans, Celtics fans. All right, Celtics traded our man Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder and a couple other pieces for what we call a superstar, Kyrie Irving. So as we go through, we're going to be talking about trade. All right, we're thinking of teams or people trading different goods. Okay, in this case, it's players. Okay, that teams think they're getting a better value for. Okay, so they're trading players. Okay, they might be trading goods for different assets. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today in our mini lesson. All right, objectives. So today you're going to be able to define exchange, barter, what are imports and what are exports. Okay, all very important things. Okay, I'll go through them and give you some definitions and some examples as we go forward. You're going to be able to explain why people choose to trade and how trade benefits people who engage in it, right? So like we were looking at the trade the Celtics made, right? The Celtics gave up a first round draft pick to Cleveland, okay? So the Celtics benefited because we got Kyrie Irving, who is a phenomenal point guard that unfortunately got hurt, but he's unbelievable when he was playing. And the Cavaliers are trying to get a little bit younger, so we gave them a first round draft pick. So they benefited from that trade as well. And then we're going to talk about free trade. What is free trade? Okay, kind of is what it sounds like, and trade barriers. Okay, so also kind of what it is, what it sounds like. So that's what we have on tap today. That's what we're going to be looking at for this mini lesson. So let's get into it. What is trade? All right. I know you like my little GIF or whatever they're called. Trade is exchange of some type of good, right? So if you look at the GIF down the bottom, right, they're trading a whatever you want to call it, a tiger or some sort of animal for a pot, right? Like a dish to carry water in. So most times, okay, people are giving up something that they consider less valuable in order to receive something more valuable, right? So, like I had talked about, the Celtics gave up something that maybe they didn't think Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder were as good of players as Kyrie Irving, okay? Whereas the Cavs thought those were two players and the draft pick was worth making the trade, right? Or as looking in the GIF down the bottom, right? Maybe the guy on the right who's giving up the animal, maybe his family or his community has enough food, but they really need that dish to carry water or something like that. So that's more valuable than the food is, right? So a classic example of trading, right, that I think of too is how many times when you're at school, right, when if you were at a brick and mortar school. When I went to school, right, I went to a brick and mortar school, and I'd be at lunch and I'd be like, ooh, those Oreos really look good, right? Or my mom gave me carrots. I don't love carrots, right? Yeah, they're healthy, but man, that bag of Doritos looks really good right now. Can I trade? I would say, to my buddy, can I trade you my carrots and my my pen and pencil, right? My pen and pencil and my carrots, and I'll throw in my mouse, right? And I'll give this all to you because I want that bag of Doritos, right? Probably not. He or she's probably not going to make that trade because it's not a very good trade, right? I want those Doritos, but I would try, right? I think you've all tried, or maybe some of you. When I was a kid, I'm not sure how popular they are anymore, but there was like these Pokemon cards that came out, and you used to collect them, right? And there was like ones that were really valuable, right? And you'd say, well, I really want that card of yours. So I'll give you a card that's pretty valuable, and then two other cards that are valuable for that one really, really valuable card, right? So that's trading, right? Um, what is bartering? Bartering is um, similar to trade, but bartering is exchanging goods or services. Okay, so we're taking, some sort of good. So if we have a pencil, right, and we are trading it for other goods or services, okay, without using money. So I would say, I'll trade you this pencil for your pen. All right, okay, fine, we'll switch, right? So that's bartering, right? So that's not using money. Or it would be, um, you know, I will work, I will build you a new deck if you um, will clean my house, right? That's a pretty good deal, right? So that's just switching goods, right, or services. So the person will build you a deck, while on the other hand, they'll clean your house, right, for the services. Okay. So an example: someone in your neighborhood grows tomatoes, okay, and there's a neighbor who has a farm who has chickens, right, and the chicken produces eggs, right, and that farmer wants tomatoes, and the person who grows the tomatoes wants eggs. So what do? They switch, right? So I'll give you 10 tomatoes if you give me 10 eggs, okay? That's bartering, right? We're switching goods for goods or goods for services, okay? The picture down the bottom it says, this person right here on the left says, I'd like a knitted sweater. And then the person in the middle says, I'd like my front door painted, right? And this person's a painter, this person's a Spanish teacher, and this person's knitting, right? So what they can do is they can barter and exchange services, right? So this person can be like, well, I will paint your front door if you can get me a knitted sweater. And then this person can say, well, can I have a knitted sweater if I teach you to speak Spanish? So it's just a exchange of goods and services, right? That's bartering. That's the difference between trade, all right? Trade, you can use money. Bartering does not use any money, okay? Just goods and services. What are some of the issues with bartering? Because, bartering becomes an issue for a variety of different reasons. One, it's hard to tell what's equal value. So like I was saying, like, okay, I'll build you a deck if you clean my house, right? Is that equal value, right? Probably not, okay? Probably not. So it's hard to tell um, what's equal value. So if someone's building a deck and they clean your house, you're going to want something on top of that and then something on top of that, right? So you clean my house and then clean my car and then, but when are they equal? When does building the deck equal cleaning the house, cleaning the car, washing the house? Like, when do those values become equal, right? So that's an issue. We don't know. It's hard to tell, okay? Unless you're trading like a product for a product. So like maybe if you traded like one egg for a tomato, okay, that's one for one, right? So that's a little bit easier. But when it comes to like value things, it's hard to be able to barter, okay? This is why money comes up. Okay, this is why money is created. We can't barter. Okay, you can't tell the value of different things. So that's why we have money, right? So you go to the store, instead of bartering and saying, I will work for 40 hours if I get a cell phone, right? Instead, you pay them, right? So they'll say, this cell phone is worth $700. All right, give us the value in money. Okay, so that's why they created money. Early on, governments created money that were equivalent to metals such as silver, gold. Okay, so it would be like $1 is equivalent to 1 ounce of gold. Okay, so they had like they had the gold and silver. The silver and gold standard, or no, it's just called sorry, it's just called the gold standard. And basically, for whatever money the government dished out or gave to people, all right, they had a certain amount of gold. Okay, we've gone away from that now. Back in like the 1970s, okay, we went away from the gold standard. Now the Federal Reserve, which is a government agency, they decide the amount of money that is produced, okay, that goes out, and basically the value of the dollar, okay. Fiat money, okay, down here at the bottom, all right, reflects the value of the goods you can buy with it, okay. So fiat money's value is determined by what one can buy with it, okay. So we're going to use this. This is accepted in most countries. Right? All right, international trade, okay, as it sounds, international. So if you travel international, you're going to another country, okay. So international trade is trade between two different countries. So the United States trades with Mexico, that's international trade, or they trade with Canada, international trade. The United States trades with China, Great Britain, any countries around the world, right? So that's international trade. Imports are goods that are coming in, okay, that are going to be brought into the United States from foreign countries. So look at it. If I am, what does it sound like? It kind of sounds like in, right? In. So we are bringing goods in, okay? Goods and services that are brought in from foreign countries. So like China imports, we import different, sneakers, clothes, a whole bunch of different goods from China, from other countries around the world. Exports, okay, exports, okay. So these are goods that we're sending out, okay. If you look at this word, it kind of sounds like you can see the start to exit, okay, exit. So these are goods that are going out from the United States that foreign countries are buying from the United States, okay? So exports are goods that are going out, in, ports are coming in, okay? So just remember that. Exit, they're going out, all right? We're selling these. Countries are buying them from us, okay? So we have a lot of foods that we export, okay? So people around countries around the world buy our meat, they buy our vegetables, so we're exporting them. We are exiting, okay, export to other countries, and we're making money off of them, okay? When we import goods, we are actually bringing them in, and we're giving money over to the countries who sent them in, okay? Trade surplus. What's a trade surplus, okay? The amount by which the value of a country's exports exceeds the cost of its imports, okay? So what this means is when we are exporting goods, right? So we're exporting, let's say pencils, okay? So we have a lot of pencils. They're buying a lot of pencils, right? And we have different goods that we're sending out. So we're exporting a ton of products, okay? But but we need pens, right? So pens are coming in from China, right? So, but we send out a million pencils, okay? We export a million pencils, and we bring in, 100,000 pens, okay? So we exported a lot more pencils, okay, than we imported pens, okay? So we're gonna make money, right? We have a trade surplus, okay? We are going to make a lot of money, okay? We have a trade surplus because we sent a lot more pencils out than we brought in. So if our exports, okay, exit, go out to different countries, is more than what we bring in, our imports, we're gonna have a surplus, okay? On the other hand, trade deficit, if we are bringing in more than we are sending out, so if we're importing more than we're exporting, we're going to have a trade deficit, okay? So if we only send out on the opposite, so we send out 100,000 pencils, so we send those out to another country, but we bring in a million pens, we have a trade deficit, right? Because we brought in more than we sent out. Okay. Trade barriers. Okay, what are trade barriers? I'm sure if you've watched the news lately, you've been hearing like trade barriers. Okay, the United States has set up a few trade barriers. Okay, trade barriers are designed to protect producers in the country from being outcompeted by foreign producers. Okay, and they want to prevent trade deficits from happening. Okay, so basically, what it does is it's a form of protection. Okay, so we want in the United States, right? We want our people who are our companies who are producing, I don't know, like a water bottle, right? So we have a company in the United States who is producing these great blender bottles, okay, blender water bottles, okay, and we want to make sure that the company in the United States is doing better than a company who is producing the same bottle in China, right? Because that's our country. We want our companies to do better. Okay, we don't want them to be outcompeted. Okay, the company in the United States to be outcompeted by a company in China. All right, so if we're sending out more, if we're importing more of these bottles than we're sending out, right, we're going to have a trade deficit. So we're going to not make as much money. Okay, so basically, trade barriers are set up to try to protect companies in a country from being outcompeted by foreign producers. Okay, so if we have a car company, right, we don't want companies outside of the United States producing cars, and then importing them because it'll cost those companies being able to sell them. Okay, so remember, trade barriers are just set up for protection. That's really what they're there for. They want to protect companies inside their own country. Subsidy. Okay, this is an example in your book. Okay, comes right from your book. All right. Subsidies are basically a bonus to producers in the U.S. or in a country. Okay, so here is the example. I'm going to read it to you. For example, corn can be grown much cheaper in the Caribbean or West Africa than in the United States. All right, they have a really good climate for growing corn. Okay, and they have lower value of money and wages, so corn could be grown cheaper there. If corn from those places were allowed to compete fairly, consumers would buy it instead of the U.S. grown corn, right? So if I have a choice in the supermarket between buying U.S. corn or corn from the Caribbean, right? Doesn't matter to me. Whichever one's the cheaper one, I'm going to buy, right? So corn farmers in the U.S. would be put out of work, right? So if people are seeing this really cheap corn from the Caribbean, they're going to buy that, and the corn that's more expensive because it's from the United States, it's harder to grow, is going to be more expensive, right? So the farmers, in the Midwest might lose their jobs because they're not making enough money, all right? Because the government believes farming is an important part of the U.S. society, right? So farming is crucial to our economy, and they believe that, farmers really need to make a living. They give extra money, okay, to American corn farmers so that these farmers can outcompete the Caribbean and West Africa. So they can buy new tools, right? So a subsidy would allow money or a bonus to go to the farmers so that they can buy new, tractors or buy new ways to till the soil so that they can grow more corn so that they can outcompete those in like the Caribbean or West Africa. All right, and the last one that they use is a tariff. Okay, this is a government imposed sanction. Okay, also again you're hearing in the news, right? A tariff is a tax on imports. So when China, is making these blender bottles, right, and they're sending them in, right, they're importing, right, to the United States. Well, we want to make sure that that companies in the United States are making the money, so there's a tax on them. So every time they come in the government taxes them. So it makes it so companies might not want to trade with the United States. Okay, so people in the United States are more likely to produce that product and make the product in the United States rather than going overseas because it costs money to come back in. All right. How do trade barriers impact other countries? So if the United States were to impose a trade barrier, okay, such as a subsidy or tariff, other countries are most likely going to impose their own trade barriers, okay? So if the United States puts a tariff on China for all the goods they import, China most likely is going to put a trade barrier, a tariff on the United States for anything we send to China will be taxed on it, okay? When countries impose trade barriers on one another, there's a good chance it'll lead to a trade war, which is just basically two countries who say, we're not going to trade with you anymore, right? We're just not going to trade. So if China sets up a trade barrier with the United States and the United States retaliates and does the same thing, the countries may just say, we're not trading with each other anymore, all right? Hopefully that doesn't happen because China is one of our biggest trade partners. But there are countries around the world that we do have trade barriers with. Free trade. What is free trade? Just kind of like what it sounds like. Free trade, there is very few trade barriers, okay? There's very few trade barriers like tariffs or subsidies, okay? There are no real tariffs on what people can trade, okay? So people can just trade, all right, I'm going to send this blender bottle to China. There's no tariff on it. I'm going to make the money that I should have, okay? Subsidy, we're not giving bonuses, things like that, okay? Countries are free to trade with one another with very little government interference, okay? So the United States can trade with China. They can trade with the United Kingdom. Government's not really going to get involved, okay? What are some of the advantages of free trade? Lower the cost for producing goods, okay, and increased variety, okay? So if we trade with China, all right, they have a lower wage, okay? They have a different system for creating iPhones, okay? And it's going to lower the cost when it comes over to the United States, all right? Also, it can increase in variety. So if it's not that expensive to make, we'll have a ton of different pencils, okay? Disadvantage of free trade, okay? The United States and other countries around the world do lose a lot of jobs to outside countries. So like China, we lose a lot of jobs to countries like China because they have lower wages, they have cheaper ways to manufacture the products, okay? So people are more likely to look outside of the United States with free trade, okay? And that is all I have for you today. Here is your exit ticket. Feel free to click on the link. Remember, if you do 5, I will give you a 100 on a quiz grade. Remember, that's an incentive from the last mini lesson. But keep up the great work. You are all doing fantastic. Remember, as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to me via email, webmail, or call me, text me. Just reach out to me any way possible. I am here to help you do well, okay? Any questions at all. I will talk to you soon. I will see you next mini lesson or live lesson. Mr. Doherty,